This video is going to show you Solo Flawless Warlord's Ruin on a Hunter. If you just want to see that, then skip to the timestamps. Over that, I can show you the build, etc. So before you attempt your Solo Flawless, you want to make sure that you have all your builds predetermined for every boss fight. So if I take you through it, so the first boss, build 1 and 2 are my two builds for the first boss. Build 1 is the base loadout build, my survivability build with Assassin's Cowl. We're using Dragon's Breath, Solar Hand Cannon, Scatter Signal. We then surge switch, right, to Celestial Nighthawk. So we're using Golden Gun on both. When you do surge switch, make sure it's the same super, unless you will lose and fail. You will lose super. So yeah, we're using Precision Shot, Golden Gun Marksman with Celestial Nighthawk. And then our base build, as I said, was with Assassin's Cowl. If I go to the next boss, this build 5 and 6 will be the Ogre boss. This is where I'm going to be using Blade Barrage instead. Pause for the fragments if you want, but I'll just put dim links nowadays anyways. So we're using Dragon's Breath again, but we're using Cartesian Coordinate and a Osmosis Hand Cannon, which I'll get into, which is on Fatebringer, in the run itself. But obviously we'll surge switch, so we are using Assassin's Cowl on that build, and then we switch to Shards of Galanar. Shards of Galanar is huge, and I highly recommend that you use it on that Ogre fight. Then the final boss fight, I'm switching things up. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but we're using as our base loadout Assassin's Cowl, and then when we DPS switch, it's obviously going to be Celestial Nighthawk. So this is Golden Gun, not Blade Barrage. But I'll talk more about the weapons in the run, etc. So like other Solo Flawless videos on this topic that I've made, I'm going to cut out the traversal sections. I will provide a little bit of advice about them, but generally this video is mainly for the 3 main bosses. There's 4 encounters technically, but 3 bosses. And there's a couple of, mazes and puzzles and stuff like that. But I'm not going to really cover that stuff because it'll bloat the video. I don't want to really bloat the video too much. So, for the Hunter, right, I've had a good time with the Hunter in this dungeon overall, right? I do still think probably Warlock's the best class to run this on out of the 3, if I was to rate all 3 classes and say which one's best. With Titan being dead last, although Titan's still good, because every solo class has the Empyrean Infinite Restoration, so technically there's that. But if we were to judge each class, then for me the Warlock wins. But the Hunter's insane. It really is. So we missed a crit there. I think that's the only crit that we end up missing on this boss, which it's easy to do, especially if you're stunning the boss with Dragon's Breath, because you'll keep doing that stun animation, and you've got to account for that, and I didn't account for that stun animation there, so that's why I missed my crit. But look at the damage we did there. Without even hitting our Celestial Nighthawk shot crit, we've still done massive damage, which I'll go over that rotation again when it comes, when I get to the next couple of phases, go over exactly what you do. So for those that don't understand the mechanics, you should do, but if you don't, after 15 seconds or so after each phase, you will be transported to a cage up above you. You have to shoot 3 blights. Make sure that if you can't find your last blight, then emote. But just keep rotating around. The blights are random. They can be up above, below. Sometimes you can get screwed over with the rotation of blights, I will be honest. Then you'll go down below you, and then you're going to capture these Scorn traps. Now, you can't always get both. It's just the nature of it and where the traps are spawned. Like, it isn't always the case. We actually get both traps here, which is good. I was quite lucky. I only, within half a second of not getting it. So it is tight, and you need to be on point with your blights. But this fight doesn't matter even if you capture 1 trap per phase, because the 1 trap is less damage. Right? I think it's 10 seconds, whereas opposed to 2 traps is like 15 or 16 seconds. You're getting 6 seconds extra damage, which is a lot when we're talking in terms of DPS. What you're going to find is every other phase that you do, you will not have a super. So if you wanted to use Blade Barrage with shards, you could, and you would super every phase. But this still would do more damage than what Blade would for this fight. Just because of debuff and how much Celestial Nighthawk does. So I still recommend you do Celestial, because You will still do ag clear during DPS because Dragon's Breath will take care of that for you once you stick the boss. Right, we're also using Assassin's Cowl, so we will use that when we can, but I will admit that it was awkward using Assassins on this at times. You know, the right enemy wasn't pushing us and we weren't able to... You know, because what it is, the shielded enemies, right, if they're not stunned, your knife doesn't count and you've got to stun them with your hand cannon, then throw your knife to get the invis. Damage is much better on this phase. That's our big boy damage, right? We could have killed, arguably, in the 3 phases if we'd hit our crit before and pushed damage a little bit more, right? And I'm not sure if I had armor charge for every wave, but overall this fight's really quick. I'm not too fussed. Like when I was posting this video or doing this run, I wasn't like, if I don't get the solo 3 phase I'm going to orbit. No, absolutely not. I wasn't too fussed about it. I really wasn't. As long as I didn't mess up too much, then I was happy with to get the clear on this and then go to the next fight. I wasn't too bothered about optimizing this because I realise, I'm smart enough to realise that people probably aren't going to capture both traps every time, because you kind of need to do that to solo 3 phase. Almost anyways. We're just going to cap one trap here because everything's working against us, so we're just going to go one trap. We're going to actually loop round into safety to get Imminent Wish to go to 0. And then we'll just let Dragon's Breath do the rest of the damage. Always start damage with debuff. Revitalize and Blast, of course. I didn't include the artifact mods. I should have done, but, you know, I think we all know you should be using the solo artifact mods if you're using a solo subclass. I think that's predetermined. So that's that boss done. It's really straightforward, alright? The biggest danger will be Dragon's Breath killing you, so be careful about that. The jail cell encounter. So you look to the skeleton. Whatever the number the skeleton tells you is the anti-clockwise number. So if it was 2, then it's 2 anti-clockwise and then 4 clockwise because there's 6 tiles total. It's really straightforward, this, right? It's actually easier solo than it is in a fire team, funnily enough. So that's all there is to that encounter. 6 tiles total. Skeleton tells you what's anti-clockwise. The remaining number is clockwise. I think that's straightforward, right? Double reserve the banner. Now we'll switch to our new build, which is Blade Barrage, but we are still on Assassin's Cowl, but obviously we're going to switch on to Shards of Galanor. So this is what I was most interested in this run for the Hunter, is what damage potential you can knock out with Shards, right? Because obviously I haven't played the Hunter I haven't played Hunter on this dungeon at all until this week. I had seen a couple of clips on things, but I wasn't, you know, I wanted to try it for myself. So we're going to actually kill some of the taken at the back of the room first. Reason for this is to get rid of the Minotaurs, because they need to be killed at some point. I figured may as well start that. So I have a routine, right? So my routine is at the start of a damage phase is try and kill 1 or 2, maybe both Minotaurs, maybe one of them. At least put some damage into that Minotaur, and then kill some of the taken in mid. Then go on a spree with the Blights with Assassin's Cowl, where you keep going invis and killing them that way. Leave 1 Blight up. We don't kill the final Blight until we're ready. Left hand side is the Scorn Captain that we choose. So again, if you're not really clued up on the mechanics of this, it's the same mechanics from the first boss fight, just that you've got mini Scorn Captains. Same thing, you've got to don't kill the Captain until he spawns the trap, but prep him. You saw I was prepping him with Cartis and Coordinate, right? Prep him with your fusion. You're going to get plenty of fusion rifle ammo, so use it. You can even Blade Barrage him, but just be careful of doing that. If you Blade Barrage and the boss sees you, he might knock you off map because you're sort of in the air. So just be careful of doing that and try and do it behind cover if you're going to blade him, because you'll get your blade back, even despite us not having Shards of Galanor on, because it's 6 minutes per phase or 7 minutes per phase. We're going to have a super for DPS anyways, so you can use it if you want to, but that's the order in what we do things. Then we'll go back to mid, prep eyes. That is the next step. Leave 1 up. Don't take the final eye yet, because there's going to be snipers on your side. I don't go right side for pretty much anything other than ammo and to kill snipers before DPS. I've said this in the previous video on the spawns. Let's just take you through it again because people will be confused and they won't be able to remember all this. Blights spawn after every time you kill a Scorn Captain. After every time Imminent Wish has ended, 2 snipers spawn left and right. These snipers need to be killed, especially before DPS. The right side snipers we can ignore until before DPS. You do want to kill them because there is a risk of death during DPS because they will snipe you. They're not infinite, they spawn after Imminent Wish ends. They spawn out of a door. There's actually a part where I ADS and you can see them coming out of the door. So they need to be killed, but not every wave, just the wave. Once you've got 4 orbs, you then kill them. And if they're a nuisance to you when you're trying to collect Scorn Traps, then kill them then as well. If you hit your knife right, which we'll use a knife trick, if you hit it right, you can actually one-shot them. So I haven't talked too much about my weapons. Obviously it's Dragon's Breath because it's best in slot for DPS. But we're using an Osmosis Firefly Fatebringer, which I've kept in my vault for a long time. Hey, there's now a use for it. It's a good example of keeping loot from years ago and then it ends up being useful. Why? Well, because this is our Restoration Hand Cannon and it's in a kinetic slot, which means we can use Cartesian Coordinate, which means we can double dip into triple Solar Surge for DPS. See, if I was to use Scatter Signal, I would have to either do triple Solar Surge and just leave Strand, or do 1 Strand Surge and 2 Solar Surge. So the DPS will be a little different, but this allows me to dip into Cartesian Coordinate's damage, although it has only got Vorpal. So there's pros and cons to both what I've just mentioned, because Scatter Signal is going to give you the Control Burst, which if Cartesian Coordinate had Control Burst, it would literally probably be the best fusion in the game. It nearly is right now, and it only has Vorpal, so imagine it with Control Burst, but it doesn't, of course. But that was my idea anyways. Whether to say that that's better than using Scatter Signal, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. It's close between the two, because it is quite close. Because Dragon's Breath does so much damage to him, I was like, I want to use triple Solar Surge. But I also want to use a weapon to complement that, and Cartesian Coordinate fits the bill because it's a fast fire fusion. You can't use Emerite in this. I wouldn't recommend it. It's too slow. It's going to do probably more total damage, but it's going to give you less super energy. And the build that I'm using is based around you supering the boss 3 times at least. I believe you can super him 4. I struggle to do that, but I at least supered him 3 times per damage phase. But you need a rapid fire frame fusion to allow you to do this, because intellect is tied to your guns as well as everything else that you can think of. The also other spawn is the Taken Acolytes. They are infinite, but there's a sweet spot to when to go for DPS. So leave 1 orb, right? Leave 1 orb up top. Obviously, that's going to start DPS when we dunk. We're going to clear the last wave of Acolytes, then get ready. If you're too slow at this, which you shouldn't be, but if you are, you're going to have Acolytes spawn during DPS, which you don't want. We'll do a search switch now. Yes, we've got a lot of stacks of armor charge. I've opted to use nearly maximum armor charges because I wanted to try and really push damage rather than a resistance build, because resistance build doesn't matter because I had Assassin's Skull on. So we start DPS with Dragon's Breath debuff super, right? Dragon's Breath didn't auto reload on that plate for me, and that screwed up my damage slightly, only slightly though. But this, anything that goes against you will mean that you will not solo 2-phase. So the chances of it happening for me on this loadout are like a 50-50 chance. Everything has to go according to plan. Right, I have to super every, like I said, 3 times at least. Debuff him every plate. Yeah? It has to all go in our favour. And like I said, things can go against you sometimes. Sometimes he enrages on a plate as well, because obviously, if he does enrage on the plate, your DPS will be cut down. You'll lose damage. Say you have 6 seconds left, you'll lose it because he's took out that fire, if you know what I mean. So I generally Dragon's Breath twice per plate, and then the rest of it's fusion rifle. But whilst using Gambler's Dodge to get a debuff for every plate. Right, that's my idea. We have got a super for final plate. We're going to get it in a minute whilst debuff's up. We keep getting our class ability back because of Ember of Singeing, which is a big one. I recommend that you have it on. See, look at the damage. We're close to half. So like I say, you can see how the solo 2-phase potential... I mean, people have solo 2-phased it. I'm not going to be around the bush. They have. Just in this particular run, it didn't happen. Like... You've got to be perfect. You've got to literally be perfect with it all. I've seen people run double special to do this. I wasn't wanting to do that. I hate running double special builds. Just because I just hate running double special builds. And I like using a primary. I'm a big primary user. Solo GM players generally are more favourite to them. You watch the top solo GM players. They generally like using a primary, especially exotic primaries. So that's just my playstyle. I don't like you. I can use double special. I've done countless videos of me using double special. There's countless. There's probably over 100 videos of me using double special. So I know how to use it. I just don't like it. I don't like the ammo economy of it. It splits your green in half. There's builds around each special finisher and all this sort of stuff, but I can't really be bothered with it. So that's why I was trying to see if I could do a solo 2-phase with just the rocket and the fusion. And you can. Just one of our DPS plates was 5% less than what it should have been. If we had hit that second Dragon's Breath shot and it had auto-loaded on plate 1, then we'll be sitting at exactly half HP. So, what I'm trying to tell you is, on the solo floors, things may not go in your favour, and things can happen because it's sod's law. So, don't always count on it. Try and do your best damage you can, especially on plate 1, because that's when you're going to be the most positive, I suppose, because you've just started the boss fight. You're not fatigued, you're not tired of it. So that's probably when you're going to do the most damages on your first phase. So, try and put the damage in. I still recommend what I did where I ran more armor charges. I could have run heavy-handed to get orbs that way during DPS to extend armor charge surges, but I also couldn't be bothered with that either. I wanted to just have my surges, so I would have a minute of DPS. The DPS is probably just more than it can be actually more than a minute if you mess around with plates, because it's not predetermined DPS, is it? It starts when you step on plate. But you can't mess around too much because you get buying cold. But that doesn't mean to say that you need to step on plate right away. That's a huge waste. Make sure that you're, especially after plate 2, that you're looking for ammo on the ground. You're establishing, right, where's my next green? Especially green ammo. 7 rockets is generally just about enough. Probably 8, so you probably want another brick on the floor or double reserve, which you might see me do that later on. So if there's a brick on the floor, I've got 7. Like back here, I can switch to solar chest plate. Then I have 9 rockets. Then I forget about heavy. Then it's only special that I need to worry about during DPS. So now, like I say, we're on phase 2. Make sure that you clear ads on left like this. You know, it makes a little. I actually did Blade Barrage. I'm such a hypocrite. So there you go, you can. But did you see the ogre can push you back in midair like that? So it's what you want to do. You can do it, but just don't jump in when you're in that blade animation, because you're going to be high up and you can easily fall off map behind you. And the ogre could easily push you off. So some of the rules are don't jump and stuff, but if you're comfortable enough with the fight, you're alright with it. But for players who are newer to this, just run around the map with your infinite restoration. Like I say, I'm using Vapouringer, but I could swap this round and use a solar hand cannon and then scatter signal, and then probably do it like that. Double solar surge and maybe a strand surge with scatter signal, and do it like that if you wanted. It maybe be a little bit easier for people. But I wanted to try this with an osmosis hand cannon. And it worked out decent. It worked out well. After a phase of damage, it's always going to be messy. There's always going to be snipers up and all that sort of stuff. So just got to be careful when you're going back to a side after damage and stuff. The Assassin's Cowl build worked really... I feel as though it worked okay on the first boss. Not that good, because the Scorn enemies with their shields will make your melee damage be immune, right? So I didn't like it for that, although you can finish them, but you waste time finishing them whilst you could be collecting a plate, capping a Scorn plate. So I didn't feel as though it was that good on the first boss. But it's fantastic on this boss. On this boss fight, it's perfect. It really is. For DPS, I always do it anti-clockwise. So imagine that you're facing the boss, right? I go anti-clockwise. That's the way I do it. That's just my rotation. Pick a routine, whatever the way you want to do it. You could go back left, then top right, then top left and bottom right. You can sort of do that and zigzag across to confuse the ogre and get more DPS time. There is a way of doing this if you haven't got a weapon that stuns him properly. Dragon's Breath does, so I didn't need to. Leviathan's Breath also stun locks him, but it doesn't put out the damage, not on console. So I don't know if it's still bugged. I think it is still bugged to frame rate. I'm not sure. I haven't been following the game that much, as you know, but it was bugged. Leviathan's Breath was doing unintended damage on PC because it's linked to frames and it doesn't chunk on console. That was the situation about 3-4 months ago. I don't know if that's still the case, but even still, I have seen the Leviathan Breath clips of people using it on this boss, and it's not that good. Dragon's Breath, even if you're not using a sword subclass, you would still want to use Dragon's Breath over Leviathan's Breath because it's doing the same thing, but you're allowed to switch to another weapon to do extra damage. So I always start rocket, debuff with knife, super, right? Then rocket again halfway through damage, and then just all fusion. That's how damage should go every plate. So that plate was perfect. Right, plate 2, wait, get a dodge, get some knives, maybe do a knife trick, and look at what happened here. Look at this. So what did I tell you just before? Things don't go your way. So he's stuck. He's stuck in the archway. My DPS is lost because of this. So the damage is, again, slightly less than what it can be. Right? And I don't even super because of that. So it's actually screwed up my rotation. So the chance of Soul 2 phase now have went to from 50% to 10. I would have to do crack damage to do this right now. I could have supered plate 3 and then somehow mustered up a super for plate 4, but it would have been extremely tight to do it. By this time, I'm not bothered. I'll just finish my damage rotation and then quickly do it. Look at that enrage. So sometimes he enrages like that as well. So we had 2 unlucky things that happened. But despite all that, look at our damage. It's still really good. It's much better than any other DPS rotation on any other class. Like on Warlock, it's better. Apart from Strand Titan, we know Strand Titan's a problem though, don't we? With the Strand Trace, we know that that's sort of inhuman damage. It doesn't even. It's that much damage to the point where I don't like watching the damage rotation of Strand Titan anymore. With Navigator, I just think it's the dumbest thing ever. I don't like it. I know that it's strong and the strongest, it's strong, but we're not even playing a first-person shooter anymore. What is that rotation? I don't even know what that is. It doesn't resonate with me at all. It doesn't look fun. It just doesn't look fun. You can't rotate your camera quick enough to do such rotation on console anyways. To look up like that, strand, then, melee, and keep doing that. So it doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't like it. So that's why you won't find me really doing certain damage rotations. And that rotation in particular is mainly when you're doing solo raid stuff anyways. You don't really need it for such things as this. So we'll speed up the footage from here now because I've literally told you everything about the fight. There's no other tips. I suppose other tips will be, with the Scorn mini-bosses, make sure that you wait for him to put down the trap and go at time 6 to refresh buff at the back of the map by the solar stuff, right? To refresh biting cold. Once Imminent Wish finishes, obviously, that's when your next wave's going to start. If you're not wanting, like if the boss is weak like this, don't bother farming ammo. I did farm ammo up on phase 1 in the hopes that I would do more than 50% damage, which didn't happen. On this phase, I don't care now. The boss is literally 10%, so all I need to do now is just dunk these orbs. So I can go in Viz and just dunk orb and bypass the whole thing of farming ammo, which is what ended up taking the run longer. If I was to set this fight up for a solo free phase, I would just do this. I wouldn't even bother farming up ammo at all, because it wouldn't matter. Because if we're not getting the solo 2 phase and we're taking extra time to try and do it, then what's the point? Just go for solo 3 phase. So in future, I would probably just do this, where you just speed and brute force it. And that's why you see a lot of people's runs a lot quicker, because they just brute force everything. They're not patient, they don't weigh out ammo and stuff like this, or strategize stuff like that. They'll just brute force each wave. So that's our fight done. So I do recommend for the traversal section you put on Wish Ender, maybe a solar machine gun. Those things will help you, but I'm not going to show that footage, of course. So that's that fight shown off. The last fight, we're going to go with something totally different. We're not going to use Dragon's Breath. We're going to show you a different loadout, a different way of doing this, because there's many different ways of doing a boss fight in this game. Like, there's so many different ways to play this game. There's almost an infinite amount of ways of doing it, of like making videos about stuff. But it's the willpower thing. Have you got the willpower to do such things? Like, who wants to do an Ark Darcy run for this? Nobody does, but it would be interesting, right? It's that whole thing of, how much patience and time have you got for the game? Well, I haven't got a lot these days, you know that. But like I said, there's different ways. We're using it with Xenophage anyways. So Xenophage and a high ground sniper, that's Strand, right? It's an absolute god roll, which won't give me an idea for this run. So it's got high ground and reconstruction. The sniper also comes with precision instrument, which would be the better roll. I've got high ground on mine. I'll talk more about this as the run goes on. So you want to focus, obviously, taking out the Scions. We're using the integration hand cannon with incandescent, right? Obviously with restoration. So it's like one of the best hand cannons in the game, to be honest, in my opinion. We're going to spawn in the eyes. We're going to stand here, and then we're just going to melt with Xeno. Right, we're not going to wait for second trap. There's a method to this. We're not going to do that. We're going to get an invis melee with Assassin's Cowl. We've then got our debuff to get rid of. So we've got to melee him. Right, whilst invis is preferable, then run away. Imminent Wish, we've got plenty of time on. We're going to run up top, because obviously you can do this. We're going to surge switch up here. Right, and then we're going to try out the high ground sniper. Because we're higher than him, aren't we, technically? I would say so. So debuff, right, Goldie, and then we're just going to do sniper damage, see what the damage is like. So I think it's 41k per crit. And this, like I said, this is a high ground sniper. Now, it says on DIM, if you don't know what DIM stands for, it's Dharma's Destiny Item Manager. If you go on this website quite a lot, it will tell you insights to weapon perks, more than what the perk will tell you. DIM states that high ground gives you 20% increased damage if you are 1 meter higher than the target. I would say we were 1 meter higher than the target in that situation where we're just doing damage. However, the damage is inconsistent. So we were doing 41k per crit that time. Let's see what we do later. And that was with debuff, and that was with 1 strand surge. And the rest is solar, of course. So, but you'll see that the damage was decent what we just done, because even though that was only 1 trap, we didn't get 2 traps. Just 1. If it ends up happening lucky where you do get 2 traps, and you know they're right on top of each other, cap them by all means, but don't take too long. Because the way we're doing this is we're DPSing on the next plate. Because Golden Gun obviously is not a Roman super, right? It's not like how I done it on the Titan. It's not like how you would do it on other classes with Roman supers. Once you've done that super, you're going to get killed by the enemies, or you're going to have to kill them, which means it takes away from your DPS time. The way around that is doing where you go to the next platform and do DPS. The thing is that all takes time to get up there. So if you cap one plate and and then the other cap point is the other side of the map, it's just leave it. It's better just to go and get your 6 seconds of damage in rather than try and brute force 2 to then not get to DPS place in time. You need a good 8 seconds to get up there. Less if you get up there too slow, you end up losing the time gained anyways, which therefore you should have just got one plate anyways. See what I mean? So it's better just to, I mean, like I say, if he does put it up and he does cooperate like so, like this is a very good example of the time where, okay, let's cap 2 zones. We're getting knocked out of this bubble, out this cap zone because of the blight. We're going to cap both zones, then get rid of debuff, then loop round. Now look, we've got 10 seconds. So you can see the timing's tight. We've got to get up there and surge switch. So you see why I'm recommending to you, if you're going to do it like this, just cap one plate. It's better that way. Because now we have got time, but we've lost it. We've lost 3 seconds of damage anyways. So it really didn't matter about capping 2 plates in this instance because of us coming up top. So our damage was Goldie and then Xeno. We either do Xeno or Sniper, depending on how we feel. Depending on what ammo's like and stuff. We're going to go back down to the plate because there's a lot of Scions up and they are opportunity for ammo. We may as well kill them because you're definitely going to get ammo off them. Right, so make sure that when you do swap back to your base loadout, because my base loadout contains scavenger mods. If we forget to swap, when you're picking up all that ammo, you're not going to get the ammo that you would have liked or hoped. Also, save some ammo here as well. You may as well, because you're going to want some ammo for later on. And you can come back down here to grab this ammo. Also, we can get some armor charges around here so that we don't have to worry about that later. So we're not really wasting time per se because we need our super for next phase anyways. And we need some armor charges. 2's enough, you don't need 3. But we're making a ton of orbs for super anyways. So we'll pop Healer Nade and then melt our Wizard and our Scions. One thing to note, when you're shooting the Blights, be careful because Incandescent can kill all 6. I've had that happen where I killed all 6 by shooting 1. And Incandescent sort of spread from the Blights to the boss to then the next set of Blights. It was insane. So just be careful of that because if you start DPS without a super, you've lost damage. You do really want to super him every time. Okay, it's something that you want to do. It's within my rotation to do this. This is a longer fight, by the way I'm doing it. But it's a safer way of doing it for people. So even though it is a solo 2 phase and damage is fantastic, we are taking our time with each DPS plate for debuffs and stuff like this. We're not going from one plate to the next plate to the next plate. How you see a lot of people do the day 1 solo flawless or the week 1 solo flawless, where they didn't know you could do things like what I'm showing you in here. I just wanted to push damage. I know that the run will be longer because I'm waiting for my melee, I'm waiting for my super and all that sort of stuff. It didn't bother me that was the case. Okay, so we're close to our super, plus we've got nade. So we've got a backup healer nade and we've got restoration ticking. That's ideally what I want. That way we have an emergency healer nade if possible. We'll stand behind this block here and we're just going to melt him. Because there's a high risk of death on this one. This is the worst plate by far because here's the thing. When you go invis to cap the zone, it is good and all, but sometimes the vengeful guy will lose track of you and sometimes you'll be at the other side of the map. Just keep your eye on him when you're invis to make sure you get rid of that debuff because you will wipe, of course. We'll do a surge switch. We're going to stand up here which again I recommend. But all I say about this is just do your goalie damage and do a little bit of Xeno and then jump off map. Jump off this zone, because if you stay on here till after 0 seconds, he will start the next damage phase, which will screw up your damage rotation massively. So just golden gun, maybe 2 Xeno and step off. Then we'll switch back to Assassin's Cowl and then generate some more armor charges, because there's some Scions left. So again, this is actually like a foolproof strat. Yeah, it's not the quickest. And I know that people have soloed flawless this in like 30 minutes and 25 minutes and all that sort of stuff. I know that they've done that. But you need to realise that they're practicing like 12 hours a day to get such times. Do you realise how this works? Do you realise that I used to do that type of content? Do you realise that I know all about the speedruns and all that stuff? Before 2019, yeah, which the game was completely different then. But I was into it, and I understand what people have to go through to get such times and get world record times and do speedruns and stuff. But I come away from all that stuff because there's no market for it. The Destiny 2 is a weird game, and there's a diverse amount of players that play this game, and there's not enough of a market for speedrun. I would say there's only 5 speedrunners, tops, who are famous enough for this to be worth getting into. The rest of the speedrunners are so niche, they're such small channels, that they would never grow off this. It would take so long that it wouldn't be worth your time. Their goal might not be to grow. Their goal is just to do speedruns because it's fun to them. My goal isn't to do that anymore. It used to be. But it will make you badly if you do that, because you'll never grow off it. For me, this is my personal thing. I would never grow off it. All right, so you've got to be able to play high quality, but sort of be accessible to the masses, to the average players, to the players who haven't got all day to farm stuff. They work, they do this, so they're not a streamer. Because there's more people that don't stream this game than do. So why would I advertise myself to other speedrunners to try and impress them? There's not enough of them. I would say at least 80% of people don't speedrun in any fashion. In some, like, I'm on about serious fashion. I'm on about uploading to speedrun.com. Uploading your times and having it moderated, have somebody watch it and stuff, and check all that. So that's a niche amount of people, and I don't want to market myself to a niche. It's already niche enough. So even the category of just solo, not solo speedrun, but just solo, is a very niche category to grow. Like it would take a tremendous amount of effort to get anything more than 100k subs as a solo player. Even more than 50k. This is like, we're talking really, this would take a tremendous amount of effort. You would have to freaking upload like 10 videos a week all the time, and everything needs to be perfect. And it needs to be of higher quality than anyone else who uploads this sort of stuff. So now we're talking about trying to be like a really good player. All right, but that means dedication. That means playing the game all the time, which is good if the game's good, but the game's got no content to play right now, so therefore there's not much motivation for me to play. So you sort of lose skill. I've noticed you lose skill when you don't play, and I'm talking about even if you don't play for 1 week, you lose your edge just a little bit, and then you play for a day or two and you get your edge back. And I know that from playing the game for such a long time, that this is actively happening. I can actually see it, which is interesting to me, because obviously I hadn't really took a break since 2019 properly at all. You can actually farm the boss for super energy, so here you go, because I want super energy for the final plate. So you saw our damage rotations on each phase. We were just debuffing Xeno 13 shots, then swap to sniper. The sniper damage, right, I'm not sure if high ground was proccing or not, but the numbers are all over the place for this sniper, because later on you'll see I hit 51k per headshot. Per crit. Whereas I never got this number not once earlier on in the clips, in the video. So what's going on? I don't know if it's bug, but what I will say is this. I haven't outright tested it and went back in the dungeon to test a non-high ground sniper and then a high ground variant. But why isn't the gun glowing to tell me that high ground is procced? Why is there no visual perk, visual indication to tell me that high ground is working? Even on the left hand side, just tell me high ground. You know when you get Vorpal weapon will proc on the left hand side. Do the same thing for high ground. You know, they're making these good perks, but then they forget to add, you know, UI. This is basic stuff. I should be able to know, take a quick glance at the gun, it should just glow. Like, if you have like armor charges and stuff, I think your gun glows, or it used to with charge with light. Your gun will glow to indicate that you've got the buff. That's all they need to do with high ground. Or just a text, line of text on the left hand side. Although you can only have 4 lines of text right now, and they're going to update the UI for Final Shape, which needs in great rework. Coming from me when I was playing Warframe, there's like 10, 11 buffs on my screen, and they are confusing to read what they exactly are, but at least they're there for me to look at. You know, so that's another thing that I sort of, you know, when you're getting rid of your debuff and stuff, you know, has he give you it back? Because the Scorn guy can give you it back. You can give him it, and if he hits you in the back when you run away, he gives you it back. And sometimes that doesn't pop on the UI to say that he's give you it back. And that is crucial, because that means a death. So it's critical that you get that right. That's why try to be in Viz and give him hit, because he doesn't know where you are. But like I said, if he doesn't know where you are, he wanders the map. Right? Try and get at least 2 invises. You'll need 1 or 2 at least to cap the player and then just run away. Obviously we've got Server, we've got our armor charges. We'll do third switch. I think I am going to do sniper because I've got my sniper equipped. So let's see what damage we get here. So 51k. So why is it now 51k when before it was 41k and 43k? Why? What's going on with the damage? I don't understand. So something's proccing. It must be high ground, because on all occasions for every DPS round we did, we always had a debuff and a surge switch on the times like where we're going above to plate 2 to DPS in from plate 1. There are some plates up top where we didn't have surges because it ran out, so the damage will be less, but in all scenarios generally I had a debuff. That was part of my rotation, so I don't know, but that to me is telling me that it procced. High ground proc there. It must have done, because it's higher damage. Was the damage good? Yeah, it was. Would you want to use this? Probably not. You want to use Precision Instrument on this sniper. With Reconstruction, it's really good, right? So if you get Reconstruction, Precision Instrument on this sniper, use it definitely. I will say though, there's a huge weakness to strand weapons. Now with Prophecy, they're going to rework some of the weapons and make them strand variants and all that stuff. They're really trying to push strand on you so much. And I'll say that's fine, but let's sort out strand weapons as opposed to kinetic weapons. They buffed kinetic weapons so that they do more damage. Now I don't know, I haven't really read the patch notes of last week, but are they keeping strand weapons the same in the kinetic slot as opposed to their kinetic variants? Because if they are, this means you're just getting ultimately less damage than what a kinetic version, like a kinetic sniper will do more damage than a strand sniper. So every time I see like a strand bow or something, I'm always thinking, well, why am I using this? I want a kinetic. I want more damage. I'm not bothered about build crafting that much. I'm bothered about damage. Alright? There's so much build crafting that you do where you hit an upper limit where it's like, well, no, you don't have to match your weapons at every given moment to your subclass. Just because I'm using a strand subclass, right, for example, doesn't mean to say that I should run a strand legendary bow. Just put Wish Ender on, right? Or you could use that new bow, right? I wouldn't even recommend that new bow. It hasn't got the damage. Nowhere near. And I'm talking like as a solo perspective in GMs and stuff. Outside of GMs, then that's different, isn't it? Anything's going to work, but you don't really need a build for such things. You don't need a build for like lost sectors and patrols and low-end strikes. Builds only start when you get to Master Nightfalls or even Legend. We could even say Legend because Legend Nightfalls are much harder than what they used to be. Builds start there and raids and your entry-level dungeons. That's where your builds start. Anything before this requires no build in the game whatsoever. Zero build is needed. That's why it pains me when people like, look at this build, look at that build, and people are growing to huge amounts of growth by making build videos. But that's fine, let them, right? Don't hassle people about it. Don't attack people about it. But from my perspective, I'm working as hard as them, if not harder, on a per video basis, and getting far less views than them. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair. I really don't. And like I said, there's countless videos of builds. You don't need it. If you just want to have fun and fair on the weekends with this game, that's fine. But if you want to really be efficient, then not every build is something that you should even look into or consider. Okay? You first need to establish, right, what am I doing? Am I okay up close? No. If you're not, right, well, you need to start maybe, to start, look at long range builds. Let's give an example of a long range build. Let's forget about the solar artifact mods. Let's forget about mods right now, the artifact mods. A good long range mod solo to use, like a long range build, to use would be Voidwalker, weak Controverse Holds, or Briarbinds. It's argued that Controverse Hold could be slightly better in mobile situations and Briarbinds being better in a stationary situation. But they are good builds for solo survivability, right? For the Titan, Precious Scars on a Titan, or the Splendor Helmet. It's a long-range build because it's proccing behind cover. If you can have a build that procs behind cover, then you can do anything in the game, literally. Literally, nearly everything in the game. Now if you start talking, well, I want to run a close-range build. Right, well then, is that close-range build gonna give you restoration or any healing? Well, it's Winter's Guile. No, it's not. It's gonna give you loads of damage, but it's not going to give you any healing. Can you even use said thing? Like, try running a GM with Karnstein armlets and just melee everything. Just watch how quickly you die. Just watch how quickly you die. You will die so fast. Even though the build's good, it's not always applicable. So you've got to, as I say, micromanage on, is it long range? Is it melee based? Right? And generally, as I say, the consensus for like surviving as a solo person, like a day one activity, you want to put a long range build on because chances are, if you're 25 under, the melee of the enemy or the boss is gonna almost kill you and put you at great risk. Now, as I say, you can go further and like, you know, run GMs with close range builds like Strand Titan and stuff, right? But that's a very niche thing. And you need to know exactly what you're doing. But that is obviously definitely viable for GMs because it's the speedrun strat to do. But it's not always applicable to the average player to run such things. So damage is looking really good. Bear in mind, we haven't even got to main DPS yet. So Xenophage, I would say Xenophage is very good in this. Right? Obviously, we tried Dragon's Breath. We tried Anarchy in this. I would say if you are in power, if you're in the high 1820s, give Xenophage a try because its accessibility is super high on the gun. If you want to use it to kill a Scorn boss, you can. It conserves ammo. It's per brick, it's like 10 or 12 with Solar Scav. So it's very easy to DPS with. It's not a crit weapon, fair enough, but we can debuff boss. So it's good. Obviously, I tried Anarchy. Anarchy Anarchy probably rates a little bit higher for me on this fight. I think it's probably one of the best weapons for this boss fight. Dragon's Breath also been amazing, but I think Anarchy's even slightly better for this. As I mentioned in the previous video why that was. But in terms of like accessibility, this is really good. And it's good to pair with Goldie because you're going to get the damage anyways. As long as you hit that crit and the debuff, you will hit soft cap. Now if you're lower than 1820, I don't know what the damage is for you. Because obviously this damage is scaled. It scales all the way up to 1830 this. So you can actually put more damage the closer you get to 1830. So if you're bored on something to do in the game, but you haven't played the dungeon for a month or two, go back in and see how much damage you do now, right? With the extra power that you've gained. And that opens up loadouts a bit. You can start to use other things. Other than, you know, what the meta is. So what I'm trying to do here now, I've edged the boss. That was just me edging the boss. Right? We've got 2 more DPS plates, but we don't need them. We just want ammo for final stand. My goal is ammo for final stand with this. So there's plenty of ammo on the floor. So what I'm going to do, I can't mind if I wait for debuff or not. As in my melee. I think we do end up waiting for melee. I'm going to try and save heal and nade. Right, because that damage is what, 5%. It's a little bit less than what the soft cap would be. The soft damage gate. It's a little bit less than what that would be. So Xeno should be able to do this on its own. And I've got full Xeno ammo. I think I am going to wait for debuff. I'm going to actually debuff him on this instead. Because final stand doesn't matter. You can take as long as you want, I suppose. But eyes do keep spawning. The blights do keep spawning over and over. If we wanted to be super safe, we could actually shoot the boss for super energy and just golden gun him at the end. Like when he's immune, you can shoot him as an immune target and get intellect. It's actually really good, that. So we'll debuff, just a couple of Xeno shots, that's it. We'll try to save heal and nade, because we want heal and nade for final stand. It's very important that we have a heal and nade, because there is a chance of death still if you don't have restoration. So we'll heal and nade and then just use our hand cannon. We'll get a couple of stacks of restoration up. Then we're going to do a surge switch because we've still got armor charges, and then we're just going to go in with Xeno. Like I said, if you were really scared of this bit, just wait for your super, then super him. You could totally do that. Now we use a bit of the sniper. Obviously it's not working. High ground won't be working at the minute because the boss is higher than us. Also the boss is a floating target, so the game might have a weird way of trying to code that. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but the damage numbers was all over the place for high ground. So I don't recommend it. I recommend other kinetic snipers or what have you, but that was a solo on this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.